Right, this is Graham Mytton here, Bookham Stamp Club. The first time I think we've done anything like this for the club, doing a presentation online using PowerPoint. The topic of my talk is stamp catalogues in the 21st century. What do you do when there are simply too many stamps and you can't identify the ones you have or find the ones you don't have? And when you cannot cope any longer, as I can't cope, with a catalogue that weighs more than 10 kilograms. I don't know what you've been doing during the COVID-19 period. I've been sorting the accumulated stamps for more than 30 years, probably around 20,000 stamps. I collect GB, as most of us do, I think. But I also have an unusual collecting hobby, which is collecting modern, contemporary, the past 40 years or so, Africa, Middle East and China. And I have amassed stamps at a huge amount, at a far greater rate than I have time to put them in the albums. But this virus period has given me time to put that right and try and catch up. So far, since the lockdown, I've put about 4,000 stamps in albums and completed my collections of 12 of the countries I collect. I am very, very dependent on catalogues. Without them, I'm lost. I don't know what I'm looking at. I use them every day. It's no longer, however, a very relatively easy thing to do. Finding stamps is hard. And of course, as we will see, some stamps are not in the catalogue, and there's a story there. How it used to be those many years ago, well, only a few 60 years ago. I was 18 in 1960, and we had this one at home. And of course, if you want, it was a simplified catalogue, and if you wanted to do things in a little bit more detail, a little bit more complexity, you could look at these three catalogues, which covered the entire world, parts 1, 2, and 3, that gave you the whole world in 3 parts. Commonwealth and Empire, the green one for Europe, and blue one for the rest of the world. Very simple. Incidentally, it's interesting to see the Standing Gibbons, or SG as I will refer to them throughout this presentation. SG have retained the same colour scheme more or less until now. Orange for simplified, red for Commonwealth and Empire, green for Europe and blue for the rest. By 1982, it was still possible to list all issued stamps of the world in a simplified form in the one volume. Just. My late father gave me what he said, he predicted it at the time, would be the last single volume simplified Standing Gibbons catalogue. And I had it for my 40th birthday in that year, and I still have it. But volume inflation soon set in, mirroring in many ways the inflation in stamp issues. And there were many reasons for that. There were soon many new countries. The USSR, when it broke up in the early 90s, it was one stamp issuing country. It was replaced by more than 15. Yugoslavia was once one stamp issuing country. It became 9. Many other new countries had already emerged, of course, from their former colonial past and were producing separate stamp issues. And many countries, especially the UK, began issuing vast, and I mean truly huge, numbers of new stamps. In only 2 decades, the number of volumes for Standing Gibbons had grown to 6. Now, Gibbons has kept it at 6 for some years now, but only by cheating. I will explain more of that in a moment. Above you can see the present condition of my formerly Bookham Stamp Club's 2011 6-volume set. It weighs over 11 kilos, and the damage to these volumes is caused mainly by their sheer weight. By the way, here's the new edition, still only 6 volumes. It costs just under £300. What did I mean when I said that Standing Gibbons kept its world catalogue down to 6 volumes by cheating? It's because since 1995, they've been excluding huge numbers of legitimate stamps, that is to say, stamps for postage that are widely available and widely used on real mail for false reasons. They use that term in their appendix, stamps that are not widely available, not put on sale in the public far beyond postal need and all that kind of thing. Just to give you one example, they stop issuing some countries almost altogether. One example, between independence in 1975 from Portugal and the end of 2010, the West African Republic of Sao Tome and Principe, otherwise known as St. Thomas and Prince, issued 4,400 stamp issues. In the 2011 simplified, Stanley Gibbons lists just 32 of them. 32 out of 4,400. One can sympathise with the Gibbons team, and I have great admiration for them, and I keep in touch. We communicate. Far too many countries are producing far too many stamps, far above demand and far beyond postal need. And it is true that many stamps that are issued, in inverted commas, are never seen in the countries that issue them. Crucially, and several stamp issuing countries produce stamps that are almost never seen for sale in any ordinary post office. And these countries include the UK, as well as several African and Caribbean countries. And of course, the situation in the UK has got a lot worse. It is now almost impossible to buy commemorative special stamps in post offices. However, while all issues from the UK are listed by Stanley Gibbons, even those never or extremely rarely seen on actual mail, there are many issues from such countries as Chad and Tanzania, all of which I have seen on regular, normal, everyday mail, which I know have been widely available in post offices in both countries, which are not listed by Stanley Gibbons. After correspondence from me, SG have now relented a little and have listed a few of the missing Tanzanian ones, but not all of them. Here they are. All these stamps, when I put them in my collection, you've seen these because I've done a presentation on the topic in Bookham, at Bookham Club in the Barn Hall. These stamps, none of them were listed by Gibbons. They've listed now a few of them, but not all of them. I've got many other examples. So Stanley Gibbons is not being fair, and it's no longer to be trusted as a reliable, authoritative, truthful, comprehensive source of information. It's also far too heavy. What are the alternatives? Michel, the German one, Scott, the American, Yves Atelier, the French. Well-known names to stamp collectors. If I got into them too far, it would make this presentation far too long, so I'll be very brief. Scott lists nearly all the stamps that Gibbons leaves out, but it now has 14 volumes. I have one of them. It's very heavy. Michel is difficult to use, has very small type, and it's in German. Yves Atelier, I'm not experienced with. It's in French, of course. But you saw the huge pile on the previous slide. I've just copied it again on the right. That is the current pile of the Yves Atelier catalogues. The reasons for going digital are obvious. The weight. Catalogues are not only becoming very difficult to handle, they also fall apart very quickly because of their weight. Michael Gibbons and Yves now also produce a lot, and so does, all three of them, I'm not sure about Scott. Michael Gibbons and Yves have solved this to some extent by producing a lot of thinner, lighter ones, and these are very good if you've got fairly narrow interests, like, for example, the Caribbean, Ireland, football, birds, worldwide fun for nature, and a few other topics or themes or regions. It's okay. And of course, if your interest is shared by thousands of other people, making it worthwhile issuing a special printed catalogue. But what if, like me, you want to collect modern Africa and Middle East and China? Well, there are specialized China catalogues, but there's no specialized single volume Africa. There are some exceptions, and I do have some smaller catalogues which are very easily handleable, produced by Michel and Gibbons especially. Cost is the next factor. Paper printing and distribution costs have grown far ahead of inflation and will continue to do so. The final reason for going digital is the obvious one of the silliness and absurdity of much stamp production. It doesn't matter if your catalogue gets bigger and bigger and bigger if it's online, because it's not going to weigh anymore. It's going to cost more, perhaps, but it does. The great advantage of digital is that digital is searchable. You can ignore all the pages you don't want to look at because they're full of silly stamps. We as collectors, of course, are partly responsible for that silliness. But it has become beyond absurd when countries produce vast numbers of issues each year when the actual need for stamps is declining or even disappearing altogether. We have to think about what on earth our hobby means if we're collecting stuff which has no meaning or purpose. I've created a sketch graph which I will show in a minute to show what I mean. But that's one using guesstimates. This next chart shows you the reality of the last 20 to 30 years. This is real data from Tanzania, a country which I have great affection for, having lived there. I have friends there, I go there, I collect their stamps. Just look at this graph. This shows you the statistics for domestic mail, for international received in orange, for international sent in grey. Just one quick explanation about the grey line. The UPU has no data for 2 periods, and you can see those 2 periods between the blue blobs. I've got real data for the blue blobs. I don't have real data for the dates between, so I've just used a slope of equal slopiness, if you know what I mean. The orange shows real data for international received, and you can see the trend in both domestic mail and in international mail has shown a rapid decline. There have been little peaks and troughs here and there, but the decline since 1995 is quite astonishing. The high point was in 1986 when something like 115 million letters or items of mail were sent within the country, down to less than 5 million today. An astonishing turnaround. And that, of course, has happened the world over. This is the pattern in most countries. Mail, both international and domestic, has declined steeply. In those countries, especially Africa and Asia, where mail is much less used for promotional marketing, or what we call junk mail, the decline has been even steeper than it has in Europe or North America. And the other very steep decline has, of course, been, and I haven't mentioned this so far, been in mail bearing any stamps at all. I've done a quick guesstimate from my own mail. Less than 10% of mail in the UK now carries stamps. And of course, nearly all of them are extremely boring ones, all the same every day. And that is, of course, one of the reasons also for the decline in stamp collecting in this country, at least. So here's the paradox. As mail declines and stamped mail declines to near disappearing point, we see a corresponding increase in the production of those things we no longer really need, stamps. Here's my rough guesstimate chart. The blue line shows the number of actual mail items going through the global mail system. And the orange line shows the number of stamps that are now being produced. And the numbers are quite astonishing, as we will see in a moment. Here are some recent stamp issues, which I've got off the internet, the pictures of them, from some of the worst culprits. Chad, St. Vincent, the Comoros, Great Britain, Sao Tome, Nevis, Djibouti. These are among the worst culprits in the world of producing stamps that will never be seen on the mail. I've said all these issues have one thing in common: they will not be seen on any mail to you or anyone else, with perhaps and then only Philatellic the exception of the GB Queen Live issue. For those of you who have a nervous disposition, the Queen is not referring to Her Majesty, but to the band, the Queen. Has anybody seen those stamps on mail? Of course you haven't, unless you posted them to yourself. So back to the main thing, the future of the stamp catalogue. The future will be digital. There are several online catalogues. I did subscribe to Gibbon's online system for a while. It was expensive and very clunky. Gibbons now has digital catalogues, but they're actually more or less digital versions of the printed ones. Nothing wrong with that. But online technology can do far more than mimic what is done in print, and that will be my point. Things are changing all the time, but at present, the SG offer does not really impress. They're not making yet sufficient use of the fantastic power of the searchability and all that kind of thing that the internet provides. What I wanted to find was something that one could search and find things quickly. There are several of these. but the best I've found so far is Stamp World. And of course, I'd love to hear if your experiences are different, we can have a dialogue about this at the club, through the website perhaps, and through email. But this has been my experience, and I'm sharing my experience with you. Here is a screenshot of the homepage of what I think is the best online stamp catalogue resource on the internet, www.stampworld.com. I'm going to go to it in a minute, but I'll just leave that there for a few seconds, just to you to sort of take in the sort of architecture and layout of it all. On the left, you have the choices, the catalogue. You can create your own profile, my profile, tell them something about you. By the way, this is a non-commercial thing. I'll come back to that in a minute. It's not run by a business. It's run by a kind of cooperative. I think all people who sign up for it are part of it. It's a kind of, I'll come to that in a minute. It's a bit more about that. You can buy stamps, you can sell stamps. It does not itself sell anything. It allows members to buy and sell. It tells you a little bit more about that. They're trying to get this going. It's not fully going in all respects. They obviously want it to be a forum. People can share events, share news, have a forum, ask questions, that kind of thing. We'll get back to that in a little minute, but they're also proposing to do on their own other services, but not many of those things have happened yet. But clubs can register, individuals can register, dealers can register, auctions can register, other organizations can register as members. Another page shows some Facebook and other links. So they provide links to other web resources. And this is what it says about itself. Before we started to create Stamp World, our original idea was to do for stamp collecting what iTunes had done for the music industry. We wanted to create the most complex online resource for stamp collectors and philatelists. We want stampworld.com to be the one website that has everything. Online catalogue of all the stamps that have ever been made in the world, to develop stampworld.com as a meeting place where users can get to know all about stamp collecting from each other, place to discuss and buy and sell stamps. And it should be the #1 place to enjoy your stamp collecting hobby, and so on and so forth. It should be kind of Facebook for stamp collectors, and so on. And this is and they talk at the bottom there about where they've got to today. This is what we want to do. The ideas described here are what we want to work towards. And we appreciate we're not there yet. We're working hard to be there. It is pretty, and it says, this is what the red is what it says about itself. You can find more than 650,000 different stamps. By the way, they do not so far go into much detail about the varieties and that kind of thing. They do watermarks and they do perforations, but as far as I can see, they're not into the minutiae of further kinds of varieties. Minor, they do tend to do major color changes, but not minor ones. That is certainly true. It's free for the basics. It's completely free for the basic service of catalogue and search facility. You can pay and you can get a little bit more. This is how it describes the different things you get. The user gets the whole worldwide catalogue, the advanced catalogue search, and you can create your own little albums there. The VIP gets a bit more. You can sell stamps. You can buy. You can do theme. Actually, that's not true. It says add themes to all stamps. You can use the thematic search. So I'm not too sure yet what extra you get as a subscriber. By the way, I have just started to subscribe, so I will report back later on what it actually means, because I'm not sure yet. I like the idea of paying some money because it's a wonderful service, and if they did charge me, £50 to £100 a year, I would probably pay it. But I'm just going to see what happens. So 6 months for $21 or a year for $35. I'm going to go for the year option and see what happens. So I'm going to go to them now. Sorry, this is the links to Stamp World. So I'm now going to go to the link. So here we are at the home page. Actually, it's not the home page. I've opened it, and because it knows me, as I'm G Mytton at the top there, it knows that I collect Africa, and that's my usual place of visit, so it's gone there first. But I could have gone. What you could get is this: you get the catalogue for the whole world, but it thinks it. Because it's me, it's come back to Africa, it thinks that it's a very clever site. Actually, there's a lot of things about it which I love, and this is one. It knows me, and it knows I always visit Africa first. So I could go to Europe first. Here are all the European countries coming up, and we have to think of GB as a European country, not just as the one that goes in the red catalogue. So we go to GB, and it goes from the very beginning with the penny black. By the way, it does give values, but I'm not sure what these values mean. The values are in euros. So this is used here. No, sorry, unused. So unused 4,500. Posted used 200. These I don't know if these are prices that members are offering them for or what. I think they are guide valuations rather than anything else, rather like Gibbons is. But let me go to the more familiar part of the catalogue that I use, because I know where I am and I know where I'm going. I do not use Stamp World for GB. I will talk about what I use for GB in a minute, a wonderful online resource that is even better than Stamp World is for GB. But I'll look at what I collect, which is, the problem is the pictures of Zoom are over, there we are. Africa. Go to Africa. And we look at what I'm collecting at the moment, which is what I'm sorting out at the moment. I have about 1,000 or 1,500 Ethiopian stamps, and sometimes I can't find them. By the way, Ethiopia is one of the angel countries in Africa. It doesn't produce rubbish. It doesn't produce Winter Olympics or Princess Diana stuff. It produces stamps that are relevant to Ethiopia. Right, I've got a flower stamp, and even despite the fact that Ethiopian stamps often have dates, on this one doesn't. I don't know when it was issued. It's a flower stamp. How can I find it? Well, go looking. You go to the search. You can either go because you know the year, and it does the years usually in decades, the 30s, the 40s, and 50s, and 60s, and so on. Or it can do so by currency, by denomination, by color, by type, by theme. Theme is we use themes a lot in stamp collection, don't we? Right. So I'm interested in stamps that are with flowers. I can't find this particular stamp, so I'm going to search for all the flower stamps that Ethiopia has ever put out, and here we go. Within seconds, it will provide me. And what it will do, better than Gibbons, better than Scott, better than Yves Atelier, better than Michel, is it pictures every stamp. Usually, not always, because sometimes they find difficulty getting stamp pictures. And by the way, you as members can provide them with stamp pictures if you've got pictures of stamps and they don't. Anyway, this tells us that the first Ethiopian flower stamps were issued in 65, and then another one in 65, another one in 76. They don't produce a lot of flower stamps, but what they do, they're very lovely. I think Ethiopian stamps are an absolute delight. By the way, they're always designed in Ethiopia by Ethiopian artists. They're about Ethiopian themes. They're about Ethiopian birds, flowers, history, good and bad. So it's an interesting country to collect. I'm really enjoying it at the moment. And it's lovely to be able to find there's not a single Ethiopian stamp. I've got to the end now. I'm just about to finish my Ethiopian collection of about just over 1,000 stamps, and there's not a single one I've not been able to find yet. Thanks to Stamp World, not thanks to GB. However, GB does list all Ethiopian stamps. There's not a single Ethiopian stamp that they've issued which Gibbons has not listed yet. So that's the advantage of online here is the searchability and the fact that you don't have to give yourself a hernia by lifting the catalogue. I'm going to move on quickly now to look at Collect GB. I almost forgot, and that I didn't almost forget. I almost forgot when I was writing this presentation. This is my plan to take you now finally to Collect GB stamps. It seems to have no commercial purpose. its proprietor speaks simply of wanting to create. I wanted to create something that would help my own collecting hobby. The aim of the website is to be an on. Oh, I am screen sharing. The aim of this website is to be an online resource for those who are interested in collecting GB stamps. It started out as a way to catalogue my own collection, and to a large extent that is what is shown, although it has now grown well beyond that. But it is a wonderful resource that's come. That's one of the lovely things about the internet. Some of the best things on the internet are done not for commercial purposes, but for sheer joy of doing them. And this website seems to be that kind of thing. And why not? So here is Collect GB Stamps. And it's taken me to the latest page, which is the current issue of the celebrating the Palace of Westminster. And I have stopped buying. I may buy the specialist, GB catalogue again, but it isn't absolutely necessary. The only thing I miss is the Gibbons. I need to know the Gibbons values, and of course this doesn't give you values at all. So if you want current values of British stamps, you can't rely on Collect GB Stamps. It lists the stamps. It does not generally. It doesn't give values. I think it does for some earlier years, but that's not its purpose. Its purpose is to list every stamp that's been issued since the penny black, and it does that with remarkable speed. And of course, the great value of it is that it does all the stuff that, as soon as you buy a catalogue, it's out of date. So it lists all the stuff that's come out since, including, most valuably for me, the definitives, because it's difficult. And all you do, you go to the top, select the year. Let's say you want to look at 2018. It'll just bring them up in a matter of seconds. There you are. Starting the Game of Thrones. Went on to it's all the Post and Go, Game of Thrones, Post and Go, Royal Mail Heritage, Votes for Women, the RAF Centenary, the Definitives of March, the New Country Definitives, which is very difficult to keep up with otherwise, various reintroduced species set, the owls, which actually I did see on a few normal everyday letters. Unusual. The Royal Wedding, which I never saw in any mail at all. The the Royal Academy, which was seen on mail. The Dad's Army stamps, which were also seen on mail, and the Hampton Court Palace, which were seen on mail, and Captain Cook, which also got used a bit, and the Old Vic. Royal Mail Heritage, First World War. Harry Potter. So it shows you the whole year. But as I say, it doesn't give you values. If you want values, you have to get Gibbons or something similar. So that really is my presentation. I'm going to stop share of that and end there. Thank you all for listening. I hope all of you are in at least some extent being able to continue your collection and to enjoy it. I greet you all.